Audio Jungle.
Hello everyone, I'm just going to show you how to wax a client's brows. The first thing you have to do is determine the sort of shape the client wants. The client of today has given me permission to just do something that would really be nice on her face. So the first thing you have to do is determine the shape that will work for that client. There are sometimes the clients will request for a shape or a style that they do not have enough hair to achieve. So you have to sort that out with your client first and during the consultation. After that is done, you cleanse the area with your pre-wax cleanser. This is just to remove any dirt, bacteria, any form of barrier or dirt that could get into the pores. So once you've done that, for you to be able to shape, there is a guideline that you have to follow. The first guideline is that you will tell your clients to close their eyes. You will put your spatula at the corner of the nose and make it straight. And you have to, if you're a beginner, it's best to mark it maybe with an eyebrow pencil. But you have to know that this is where your brows should start from. If you're a novice and you're still a bit scared about shape, it will help you to get the right shape that will suit your client's shape of face and also shape of eyes. So you put the spatula by the corner of the nose. Any hair outside this boundary is to be removed. This is where the brows should start from. Then once you establish that, sometimes you can put a bit of pressure with your spatula so that it leaves a little bit of mark for you to know where the brows will start from. But because I've been doing this for a long time, I've already marked it that this is where our brows will start from. Then you tell your client to look straight up to the ceiling. Look straight up. No, you don't need to lift your head. Just use your eyes to look up. The outer part of the pupil, where the pupil ends, this is where the spatula is. That will be the highest point of your brows. So if you have a client that just has straight brows, she already has like pre-shaped brows. And the person that shaped this before actually got it right. So the client has to do is look up straight to the ceiling, and the outer corner where the pupil ends, that is where you have your arc. That will be the highest point of the brows. So if you want to create an arc, it's going to be there. So if you now want to know where the brows will end, you tell your client to close their eyes. From the corner of the nose here, you put your straight spatula. That is where it's going to end. Because you would have clients that sometimes their brows grow up to this level and you need to determine where it will end. So I know that our brows is to start from here. This is the highest point and it should end about here. So you have to establish that. That is the technique that you would use to determine where the highest point will be, because every woman, most women want an arc, whether it is an angled one or a curved one. First of all, you have to put your spatula at the corner of the nose here. Here, by this fold here, you put it there and put it straight. Anything outside the borders, the outside here, this other side, is going to be removed. Any form of hair. A lot of clients have the unibrow. She has a little bit. So we're going to remove everything from here. To determine the highest point of your arch is meant to be, the way you're going to identify it, she has the arch already there because of the person that shaped her before. But if you have a client that has just a straight line and you still want to give an arch, what you will do is tell your clients to look straight up to the ceiling. So The outer corner of our pupil, that is where the highest point of our brows will be. So you just tell them to look straight. Make sure they are looking straight. They are not looking to the left or to the right. Just the outer corner, that is where you would establish the highest point. And then if you now want to know where the brows should end, because there are times you have clients that have their brows grow up to this side, just the corner of the nose here, just a straight line, anything outside here needs to be removed. So that is how you determine. And you always have to like keep a mental memory of that spot where you have the highest point, where you have the starting point, and where you have the end point. That is the first step. The second step is that you have to check. Can you close your eyes, please? You have to check if the brows need trimming. And how do you determine that? Most of the time, most people feel if their brows are too long that it's like a negative, but actually it's not. It makes your brows look fuller. So all you have to do is just brush your brows down. Brush it down. If there is any excess, such as this, you trim it off. So let me get my brow scissors. It's always best to do your brow brushing before you start shaping. So I'll just cut this excess. Not that much. You brush down, then you brush up. Brushing up, you just cut a little bit of the excess, and that should be fine. The same is done to the other brow. You brush down and use your brush to hold it, and then you just snipe off any excess. You'll brush up too. There isn't much, so I'll leave it. So you brush your brows. I always say, no matter what, brush your brows into the sort of shape you're looking for. So you have to brush it in. And then it's now time to remove. You have your regular spatula. You break it into two. You further break it into another two this way, so that you can have something like this. Or I would use this as it is this edge that you will use to apply your wax. So you dip it into your wax, get a little bit of the excess out. When you want to shape, you must always start with a slant to your arch. So you stretch the skin and you start from the base and you walk up a straight line, a slanty straight line, and you walk it up to that highest point that you have marked. You always have to be considerate of what your clients want, and you have to be able to meet their expectation in terms of the type of brows they have and the sort of shape they want. There are some people that the sort of shape they want, they don't have the hair to shape that. So you have to make sure you talk to your client about that. So you have that slant, and it must be a slant. It must be an even straight slant to the highest point. The trick here now is, once you get to the highest point, all you have to do is hold that your highest point and just make a curve. Just make a curve. Just turn your spatula. Just make a curve. Once you make a curve, then you go straight down. You don't want your wax to start drying, so immediately you take your strip wax, you put it across the brows. If it's the first time, kindly let them know that this can be slightly painful. Once you're done with that, make sure it sticks. you will stretch the skin because you don't want to bruise the skin. You stretch it and pull and remove the hair. Then you go back if there's any excess. A lot of times I just like to go over, especially if I've removed a good amount of hair. I don't want to go over the area with wax again because the skin around the eyes is actually the thinnest. So what I will do is I'll just brush this up. I'll brush this up. I'll go back with my wax on this edge because there are some that did not remove hair. The rest will be removed with tweezers. So I'll go back with my wax and then I go back into that curve and I turn it again. And turn it again. If wax does not get to the hair, it's not going to remove. So I go back with my strip. See, make sure that any area that you have used when you're doing eyebrows, you fold it. Because if I go back with this, some of this wax will pull off the hair that I don't want to come out. So I make sure that any area I've used, I cover it up before I introduce a new clean wax strip and then stretch the skin and pull. You can see the wax has given us a defined shape. And I'm not going back to the brows again with any form of wax. If I need to do any tidy up, I'm going to do it with tweezers. So the challenge for every beauty therapist is what you have done here to replicate it here. Before, we would also wax above the brows just to give it more definition. So, but before I wax above the brows, I must make sure that I replicate the same thing I did in the first brow and the second brow. To remove the hair from underneath is now to remove the unibrow. You must always remember where you highlighted that the brows will start from. If you are not too sure, don't be too forward. So you apply along and then remove against. So you can see clear skin that is hair free. At every point you must always brush the brows. Brush them. You can still trim these areas, but so the final part that we're going to wax is the top of the brows. First of all, let me trim. You can see that she has a bit of long. I'll trim it so that I don't Okay, so we're now going to wax the upper part. So for people that don't even have an arch, you can create one if they have a bit of facial hair. So you have to highlight the highest point, and when you're waxing the top, make sure you don't get rid of the highest point because you can wax it off. So we go this way. Once you get to the highest point, you flick your spatulas and go down. So you come to this side. and wax it off. So wax it off. Remove any wax residue so that you can have a more defined shape and a more defined hairline. So a more defined shape and a more defined hairline. So this is this. You also have to remember where it ends. For her, you can see the hair patch here. We have to remove that. So you come back with your wax and remove. You might think it's not visible. By the time she gets into the sun, it's going to actually be very visible. So you wax that, you bring your brush, and then you brush. You can see that this is more defined than this. It gives it a sharper look. So we're going to do the same thing to the other side, making sure that we're very careful and we do not remove the highest point of the brows. So you go to the straight line. When you get to the highest point, you end there, and then you give it, you go down. And then you remove the same way you remove the other part. So you put your, this you cannot remove at once, you have to do it twice. This side, she's quite hairy, and then you remove this side. It makes the brows much defined. Makes it much more defined. So you brush. If there are any extra hairs, like the ones here, you twist them out. You don't need to go over the skin over and over again with wax. You just make sure you twist any other stray hairs, twist them out. For her now, she doesn't even have to use any form of eyebrow pencil if she doesn't want to. If she does not want to. Another thing I would say you should do is that you should sit your client up and look at the alignment of the brows. Another thing you can do is go across and look at the brows as if you were looking at them from, not from the top, but from the front. It's quite aligned, and that is the technique. Once you feel you've gotten the perfect shape and you're done with the job, we need to clean the brows with our after wax lotion or oil, just to soothe the area and also to remove any form of excess wax residue. So we apply. The skin has just been traumatized in a way, so we apply. We give our clients aftercare, and then you give them a mirror to have a look, and you're done.
Audio Jungle.